Well, this is Pastor Haley, and I was looking at this week's spiritual assessment, just going over things through the questions in Machia and some of the other readings. And as I reflected on the questions this week, when it talks about the context of a spiritual community, Machia asks a question concerning what is some of the things that people of your community have done to encourage you or to lift you up. He shares from Mark chapter 2 and the friends that took up the paralyzed man and put him through the roof. And I think there's times where all of us have felt that way, that we need to just get to Jesus and everything will be okay, but we feel disabled. And there's always those friends that are there to pick you up and encourage you and all those different things. And he asked the questions, what has been some of the things that some of these friends have done for you? One of the things I really feel is encouragement. Many of my friends I felt have spoken into my life, words into my life that they don't know how much it meant in the moment when I was going through something. And sometimes they don't even have an idea of what you're going through. And I really feel that encouragement is really one of those things, because there's times I feel that we all find ourselves much like David when, they took his wife and kids and all his army when they'd come back in 1 Samuel and took everything. And when he comes back, the men, they find everything gone, find their wives, their children gone. His own men thought about stoning him. And it says that David took the ephod and he went before God in prayer. And it says that he encouraged himself in the Lord and he received an answer from God. And God showed him what he needed to do, to go and overtake them, and they would get everything back, and they actually got double. But there's times that there's moments like that you feel you're alone, but there's also times where there's just those people that pick you up. And I think that there's more times where there's people that pick you up than there is that you are by yourself like that. I've had friends that have really encouraged my life and have helped me to stay on the straight and narrow and focus on what God's purpose is. It's so easy to become blinded by circumstance. One of the things and examples I use is like when you're driving. Many times during winter months, when we get a lot of rain, we get a lot of snow and different things, and sometimes you're driving and it just muddies up your windshield. Sometimes you can't really see good, especially if you don't have no window washer in there, and you try to spray it and there's nothing there. It just seems like it just smears even more, even when you try to wipe it. And many times when we try looking through the window, we can't see very good. Now, if we get out of the car, we can see a lot better. But within the car, we can't see very clear. Many times those good friends are the person that shows us to get out of the car to see what is really going on beyond that dirty windshield, because our circumstances blind us. And that's where I find that also friends have not only encouraged me, but they've also counseled me. Second, the next thing that Machia mentions, he discusses about John Wesley's model, about testimonies and singing and all these different things. What's the fruit of it? I find that the fruit of that is that it produces community. When we hear someone's testimony, we hear what they've gone through. I've always found in myself that it brings out an encouragement that I see that I'm not the only one who's been through something. And I think we can all relate to that in one way or another. That sometimes someone just has gone through something, and we find an encouragement in what God has done in them. No difficult circumstances are easy. But as the Apostle Peter said, all the brethren in the world suffer the same things. We all go through something one way or another, whether it's temptations, whether it's trials, rejection, health. Certain things just seem to attack us all in life at one time or another. But the great thing is when you hear someone's testimony, or you hear songs that someone sings a praise to God, it brings us an encouragement in your heart, because it shows how great God is. That he as he said, he'll never leave us nor forsake us. That's something I hold dear to myself, and I think that's something that it does. It produces inspiration within the body of faith. It builds that community of awe in who God really is. The third thing that he asked, what does a friend look like to each of us? He had discussed in the chapter concerning Jonathan and David. Now Jonathan, that how knit they were. Two things I had put down is loyalty, and that person is trustworthy. And the reason I mention this is because it's so important to have loyal friends. We all have people we know, but there's, especially in ministry, there's people that are just trustworthy. Too many times I've met people who enjoy seeing people go through hardship, and they go and tell others about it. They like to gossip, or they like to enjoy seeing someone down. That's not a friend. That's someone that's miserable. And a real friend is someone that knows your faults and knows where you're going through something. And they don't look and try to see how they can hurt you, but they see how they can help you. That's a real friend. That's someone that's loyal. David was fleeing from Saul, and Saul was even his own father-in-law, which is crazy when we think about it in the Bible. But David was going through a hard time in life because he was being persecuted by his own father-in-law, just because of what God was doing in his life. Most people would think, oh, great, David's being raised up to, he's going to be the next king. I need to help train him. No, but his thought was, well, no, now my bloodline isn't going to have the kingdom anymore, so now I got to take this guy out. But that is the wrong attitude. Saul wanted to see David be hurt, and Jonathan wanted to see David be helped. Jonathan was about loyalty. He was someone that was trustworthy. He loved David as his own brother. There was a bond. And that's when someone is truly a friend. They don't want nothing from you other than your companionship. And that truly is some of the things that I reflected on. And I feel that that's some of the things that we always are working on within ourselves. And I have been personally in cultivating friendship with people, seeking out people that are loyal. There's people I keep my distance from, especially in the pastorate. You kind of get to know who's who in your church. And it's not in a mean way. But there's certain people you can't go to with certain things because they go right to someone else, and then they go to someone else, and then they go to someone else. Even one guy in my church, he says, Pastor, they're talking about you. And I said, oh, really? Yeah, there's just a few people, they've said a few things. Oh, they're hurting, Pastor. They're hurting, but they're talking about you. I said, well, why don't you send them to me? That way we can discuss any issues. Oh, I can't do that, Pastor. I can't do that. I find that person to be someone who's not trustworthy, because he mentions and identifies a problem that maybe someone has with me, but doesn't want to solve the problem. The person that is trustworthy will recognize an issue, but will seek out how to resolve things and bring healing, not hurt. And a true friend is someone that is loyal and not a talebearer, not someone that just carries around gossip, but is someone who is trustworthy and loyal to the purpose of Christ, to where we bear one another's burdens in the love of Christ, as the Apostle Paul said. That is my assessment for this week, and many of the things that we have left. I enjoyed this class and glad to be partaking with it. Lord bless you.